Earl Thomas is signed for about $14 million a year with the Baltimore Ravens as Jay Glazer is joining us. Jay Glazer would not back down on Odell Beckham was going to be traded. Dave Gettleman, the GM of the Giants, came out and said we didn't sign him to trade him. And Jay Glazer said he is still on the trading block. They're taking calls. So yesterday, and that's why I stayed on it, I trusted Jay. I made my calls. I talked to OBJ. And congratulations, first of all. You took a lot of crap, and you would never back down. And the reason you wouldn't back down was
because I knew I was right. And that's the thing. If I'm going to put something out there, I'm only going to put it out if I know it's going to be accurate. And I keep saying I'd rather have, and I think I said it the other day, I'd rather be last on every story but right on them all than first on everything and right on 95% of them. If I say something on Fox NFL Sunday, it better be right. I want people to know that if I say it, as crazy or as outlandish as it may sound, if I say it, you could take it to the bank. I have a responsibility to our show, to our guys, and to the fans out there to make sure I get everything right. So even with this information, this has been going on for a while. I put it out as a prediction, but there was a lot that went on behind the scenes here. Look, during the year, teams called the Giants to try to trade for Odell. They got shut down basically at the top level. The ownership said, let's not do it.
Yeah.
Then they had meetings about a week before. Now I can say it here now. A week before I put my prediction out, Giants brass had a meeting, and they said, okay, we're all on board now. Time to move on from Odell. It's just, for them, it was just this marriage. It just, they went to counseling, thought the counseling would work, ended up not working. They said, all right, let's just be friends and write each other postcards.
And by the way, this is information that Jay had been very giving to me, but why I kept bringing him on the show, because you had told me they had decided internally to move Odell Beckham, but they weren't going to say it publicly because he is wildly popular. By the way,
you told me you brought me on the show because of my good looks.
That was number two.
That was
actually.
number two. Thank you.
All right, they got a first-round pick. That'll be a starter. They got a starter in Jabril Peppers at safety for Landon Collins. They got a third-round pick who should eventually become a starter. This morning, everybody is bailing on the Giants. It was a disaster, but to me, it was almost like they're acknowledging we are now a rebuilding franchise.
We messed up. I think what happened last year is they got Nate Solder, they brought in Saquon Barkley, and they're like, all right, we're going to be a contender. And there's a reason why they had their second pick of the draft the year before that, right?
They don't have a ton of players.
They don't have a ton of players. They don't really have the swagger you need in that locker room. I mean, every time there was a pity party last year, every time Eli missed something, receiver after receiver throw their arms up. It was just like, man, they need a culture change inside that locker room. And Pat Shurmur is trying to give them that culture change. And I do believe this is a big part in their eyes of changing the culture from what Odell had been in that crew to what they wanted to be, which is Saquon and the new crew coming forward.
Let's talk Le'Veon Bell Jets. Okay, first of all, the Jets had the second worst rated receiving core, the worst rated running back core. They have already upgraded with Crowder from Washington, a clever slot receiver. Le'Veon Bell's a home run hitter out of the backfield. They got a Pro Bowl guard from the Raiders. They've clearly said, and Adam Gase, by the way, is an offensive-minded guy. Le'Veon Bell rolled the dice, and he sat out a year. Do I know that he's happy today?
I don't think he won either.
I don't either.
That's $14 million you can never make back. We were always saying the big thing was with Le'Veon is he'd have to make up what he lost.
He didn't.
No, he didn't. And people would, I don't know how they're going to try and spin it with, well, he got to rest for a year, his body free. No, it's like this is, when you're outside the locker room, that's what you miss. You miss the guys, you miss that locker room, but also that position has the shortest shelf life of any other position in the NFL. You miss out on 14+, you'll never, ever, ever make that back.
And by the way, Jay, there were a lot of rumors with Le'Veon Bell. You never entered that fray.
I don't do that, yeah.
Could I make the argument the Jets were the only legit offer?
You could make that argument. Most of the teams were sitting, waiting for two things to happen. One, waiting for all the smoke to clear and to find out what numbers they're really talking. And then two, to see if there were really no suitors because the circus was just too much, or what they thought his asking price would be too much, and all of a sudden he came all the way down here to the middle of the pack. So there were a bunch of teams who would have, I think, jumped in if his asking price came down considerably, even from what he got here, which is, much less than what he was aiming for.
Yeah, by the way, I heard a lot of teams in on this, like the Colts.
The Ravens were never in on it. The Colts were never in on it.
I know the Colts were never in on him, and it was just a bunch of jabber on the internet. And
No, it was reporters agreeing to get used by agents, and it's just... that's not okay.
Okay, so I'm not trying to be negative today because I do think Odell Beckham's a blast in Cleveland, and he and Baker, it'll be fun. And I think Antonio Brown and Derek Carr, it's going to be fun. And I think Le'Veon Bell, absolutely. Sam Darnold's got a running mate now. But boy, oh boy, there's been a lot of bad money spent. And I'm seeing teams like Detroit and the Jets and Cleveland and Washington and Oakland. The Colts have $100 million in cap space. Maybe the smartest GM in the league. They're not doing anything. What does that tell you?
What that tells me is Chris Ballard's going to continue to do it the way he has started to, which is not throw crazy stuff out there. He's going to wait. There's a bunch of teams right now who are waiting for this week to end. As one team texted me, we're waiting for this foolishness to stop. And then they'll jump in on the remaining free agents.
Mid-level free agent guys.
Or there's high-end free agents, but the money's just so outlandish.
Yeah.
They're waiting for some of those guys to drop. There's always, every year, there's a few guys who find themselves sitting there midway through free agency going, hey, what about me? Like, what? How did I get left out of this?
Right.
And all of a sudden, you can get great value for those guys. That's what a guy like Chris Ballard does, because he knows I can build through the draft, and I'll bring in, players that will complement what we have. They don't have to go and try to hit a home run. They're already on the upswing. I think other teams are going to try and follow that same thing.
This is crazy. I love this. The free agency is crazy. Yeah. Do you believe, you said this about a year ago on the show, that this is just the new NFL? Is it because there's less practice time, so teams with veteran quarterbacks, they want veteran players in the room?
I think, it's a copycat league. So the Eagles, when they won 2 years ago, people started doing the same thing. The Rams did it last year, and it worked for them as well until this ends. Once teams start, there'll be another trend where all of a sudden it's just, when the Colts win, and they go, well, we just did it through the draft, and we didn't really go spend big.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's a lot of teams that go, well, we want to do it with their model. Things are cyclical in the NFL, and it'll come back down around.
Okay.
But you'll always have those crazy teams that will always go out there and try to spend big. They make these splashes. They can't. It's like they can't resist. They can't resist the urge.
Well, Dan Snyder, Washington, this is what they do. Detroit, historically. By the way, Earl Thomas has signed with the Ravens. Hey, I'll just throw this out, and you're not in the speculation business. I'm not even sure. I don't have a list in front of me of the best available player. Do you expect anything today to happen?
Yeah, there'll be more that's going to go on today. Again, because some teams are going to go, there's that mindset of, oh my gosh, we're missing out on all the fun. We better jump in here. And there's just the other teams. There are a lot of teams that went into this whole thing saying, let's not touch anything until week 2. Those teams will still just sit there like that.
By the way, let me throw this one out. I'll tell you a move I loved. D Ford to the Niners.
You love that?
Well, I think the Colts, I'll just tell you what I believe. I think the Colts gave him a look. He got franchised. It was a little costly. But now San Francisco has their pass rusher, the number 2 pick. That's a valuable pick in this league, Jay.
Right. No doubt.
D Ford's a real player.
And I tell you what, you talk about those value guys, a guy like Justin Houston, that's the type of guy who right now, his name isn't flashy, but you can go sign a Justin Houston and he could pay off really great dividends for a team in need of a pass rusher, and a guy who's that's a hard dude. That's a guy who comes in there and he immediately kind of changes, the nastiness in that locker room.
By the way, Kansas City played in the AFC Championship. They're favored, along with New England, to get to the Super Bowl. Everybody's accumulating stars. They let 2 stars go.
Yep.
So Kansas City is doing a little New England. They're on the beach.
And I keep getting people asking me, well, what's New England doing? They're not doing anything. They don't have to do anything. They just won the whole thing.
Yeah.
They just got to keep doing New England. That's it.
12
They've
draft
done this
picks.
the right way. That's it. That's all you got to do, yeah.
I think it's very interesting. Kansas City let go of players, a winning franchise with a remarkable future with Mahomes and Andy Reid. His name is Jay Glazer, a guy that I totally trust and regularly bring on this show. Buddy, good seeing you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
You bet. Jay Glazer, Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So on Monday nights, the Thunder were in Utah,
Yeah.
and Russell Westbrook got into a verbal altercation with a fan. It's everywhere. Everyone's seen it at this point. He was caught on tape, saying a few choice words. And after the game, Westbrook responded by saying that the fan was saying racial things towards him. Well, the NBA has now announced they've banned the fan. The Jazz have banned the fan forever from
And they did it quickly, by the way.
Yes,
NBA
did an
worked.
investigation, and they banned the fan.
And the Jazz
On it. To their credit, they were on it. Well, the NBA has announced that they've fined Westbrook $25,000 for his actions, citing the reason as directing profanity and threatening language to a fan. Westbrook did not receive a suspension, but like I said, they did impose a lifetime ban on the fan from the arena. And it's also out there, it's being reported that the fan is planning on suing Westbrook. I don't know what's going to come of that.
I don't think you should have suspended Westbrook. I don't think you want to threaten people, a woman. I didn't doubt that was a great look.
Well, I mean, I think that the NBA, I don't really agree that he should have been fined based off of the fact that the Jazz did do an investigation and found that they needed to ban the fan.
Yeah.
So I'm in Westbrook's corner because obviously, clearly, something happened that was egregious enough for the Jazz to ban the fan from the arena forever. But the NBA is kind of in a tough spot because he did use profanity and threaten a fan and his wife. So I get where the NBA is in this spot. They want to discourage, profanity-laced interactions with fans, but it's impossible not to be on Westbrook's side in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction when I saw it was, oh my God, he's unhinged again. And my general thought is always, how dumb do you have to be to yell racial slurs in front of 10,000 people? But there are a lot of bad people out there and a lot of dopes. My initial reaction to this was, Westbrook, come on. But time and time again, I talk to pro athletes and I ask them, have you ever heard racial slurs? It is remarkable to me. They're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, so somebody in a crowd of people in 2019 does that. It is shocking to me because my initial gut feeling was, Russell, you're a superstar. He's an idiot.
I wish I could say it was shocking to me. It's not shocking to me at all. 2019 thing just means to me that these people are so entitled that they feel like comfortable doing that in a setting with thousands of people and camera phones everywhere and security and professional athletes who can clearly hear them earshot away. Yeah. But I'm glad that the Jazz took care of it, and I'm assuming this is going to go away over the next couple days. I don't anticipate more of these incidents with Westbrook. I know everyone thinks that fans are going to keep interacting, but I feel like the Jazz's reaction to this kind of put at least set a bar for future incidents that at least fans who are planning on heckling Westbrook will realize that if it goes badly, you can really actually not be allowed in the building ever again.
And by the way, I like what the Jazz did and the NBA did. You and I agree on this. I am so anti-heckling, not just because I've never once gone to a performance and wanted to heckle the performer.
No, I didn't pay to hear the heckler.
Secondly, it's disruptive to the other fans in the area. 99% of us go to athletic events to watch great artists perform, not to hear hacky stand-up comedian. I mean, I've gone to stand-up shows, and idiot next to me thinks he's funnier than Jerry Seinfeld.
It's the absolute worst.
The worst. If you get rid of these fans, hallelujah.
And look, no one is saying that you can't go yell and cheer or boo or participate in stadium and arena chants. There's a line. It's very obvious. The guy crossed it. It's done. All right. So the Chiefs agreed to trade D Ford to the 49ers. The 49ers making big moves. They sent a 2020 second-round pick to Kansas City for the linebacker. The Niners also wasted no time securing Ford to a long-term deal.
Yeah, I love this.
5-year, $87.5 million extension.
Joy, I love this.
It made him one of the highest paid linebackers in the league. This is a good move. I think it's a good move for both teams, actually.
Yes, yeah. No, D Ford's a real player. And they also have Chris Jones. And, I mean, Kansas City is doing the opposite of the Jets and the Cleveland.
Right.
They're like, hey, we're moving out of these stars.
Well, they did sign Tyrann Mathieu to a pretty big deal.
He's a very instinctive player.
Right.
I like Tyrann Mathieu.
And they need that. But I also think that they have a lot of people they have to pay.
Yeah.
So they were going to have to move off of somebody. And I like this move for the 49ers.
And they have a history of drafting well. Kansas City does a good job finding talent.
Yes. And they're going to rebuild. They have a new defensive coordinator. They're going to figure it out. Finally, Earl Thomas has agreed to sign with the Ravens. You mentioned a few minutes ago. The deal is for 4 years and $55 million.
That's a lot.
Adam Schefter.
A lot for safety.
It includes $32 million guaranteed and $22 million in the first 9 months. He had 22 tackles and 3 interceptions last year before the injury where he broke his leg.
Yeah.
And the Ravens were first in total defense last season, so this is obviously just an improvement on being great.
Yeah, they lost C.J. Mosley, though, and Terrell Suggs.
Right.
So I think for them, this isn't desperation. This is, we got to get some playmakers. I mean, they lost real playmakers on that defense.
Yeah, CJ. Well, Suggs is older, but he's a huge piece of that defense, and
Mosley's a
veteran, obviously.
Totally. Oh, they just signed Mark Ingram. So, okay, so the Ravens' moves make a lot of sense to me. So they lost top defensive players. They go get Earl Thomas. More money than I'd want to pay for a safety, but I get it. And they just signed Mark Ingram. And I told you yesterday, I thought Baltimore and Le'Veon Bell made a lot of sense. Lamar Jackson.
I like Mark Ingram there, too, though.
Yeah, no. This offense is going to be a ball control offense.
Right.
If you got to play Baker and those weapons and Big Ben, you don't want those guys on the field. So Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas to the Ravens don't feel desperate. They feel like really smart moves of not only of not great value, but great need. They need those two.
Win your division first, right?
Yep.
So.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
You know, I always say, I like my quarterbacks to be boring. You know, I call it my bore four. Brady, Breeze, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. I like Jared Goff. I like Darnold more than Baker Mayfield. I don't get the nonsense. I don't get the bravado. I don't get the cockiness. I'm a big fan. It is interesting, though, to watch Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold as they enter their second year and see the similarities between the two. It's really fascinating to me. And I think both are going to succeed in this league. It's going to be hard for Baker not to score a lot of points with that offense. But just think about the similarities between Baker Mayfield with the Browns and Sam Darnold with the Jets. First of all, they both come into the league and finish below 500. Then they both, second year, have a new coach. And then both sign massive, big personality, big Odell Beckham, Le'Veon Bell, controversial stars. They both are franchises, Jets and Browns, with a history of chaos. Ownership up, down, they make their own problems. They also are in a division with iconic franchises who are very well run. Steelers, Patriots. And one more thing. Both these acquisitions could implode. Okay, Odell Beckham has an injury history, and the Giants got rid of him because they didn't love what he did to the locker room. And Le'Veon Bell's been suspended twice, injured once, and I'm not sure he loves football. I think he likes what football provides for him, and he's very, very good, but I don't think Le'Veon Bell's totally happy today. He lost $15 million. He's getting ripped by everybody today. Also, Cleveland's got Freddie Kitchens, a rookie coach, now having to deal with a big ego GM, an ego at quarterback, Odell Beckham and massive expectations, and Darnold's got Adam Gase and Greg Williams and Joe Vitt, big, strong personalities in that locker room from the coach. And I think Baker and Sam, they won Twitter yesterday, and it's explosive, and they'll be better short term. But the NFL has this little dilemma. It's not a dilemma, it's an opportunity. You get a good rookie quarterback, and he doesn't make anything for the first 3 years, and you bring stars in. But some stars are more demanding. Le'Veon Bell. Some stars are a little tougher to coach because they're so gifted. Odell Beckham. And I'll just remind everybody today, the two best teams in the AFC, favored in Vegas, are Kansas City, who has a great quarterback, a great coach, and great talent. And New England, great quarterback, great coach, great system. So nothing against Jets. I think they're a better football team today. And nothing against Cleveland. Their offense is filthy good. They got players everywhere. But, Baker and Sam, they come in below 500, get a new coach, get a superstar. Both superstars are demanding guys. This is not, this is not Larry Fitzgerald or Calvin Johnson or, low maintenance. You got big dogs in your division, Pittsburgh and New England. You both have a history of owners that muck stuff up. And I don't think Le'Veon Bell is actually happy with his contract. I think he's fairly bitter about what he got. And by the way, Odell Beckham reportedly is going to want to renegotiate his. So I think they're living very similar lives, and it's very exciting. Listen, if you're the NFL this morning, the Jets and the Browns 2 years ago may have been the NFL's most boring teams. I mean, the Browns may be the most fascinating football team in the league next year. And the Jets, you got to watch this. You got to watch Darnold and Le'Veon Bell. So if I'm the NFL, I mean, this would be like the Orlando Magic getting Kevin Durant and, the Atlanta Hawks getting Kyrie. I mean, you just took two unwatchable franchises 2 years ago. I think if Cleveland will play the Jets this year in New York, that could be the most watched game of the weekend. I'm not joking. You've got to watch that game. That's going to be unbelievable. So a big win for the NFL. Coming up next, Nick Wright is going to join us. In L.A., it's The Herd.